This is a quick video tutorial highlighting how to process MX7 imagery in Trimble Business Center version 5.80. This tutorial assumes you've already processed your raw trajectory in POSPAC MMS and you've got that SBET stored appropriately, and you can map to that during the import process here in TBC. It also assumes that you know how to access base station information, whether you provide that yourself, download from the CORS network, etc. So those topics are covered elsewhere. This video will strictly focus on how to take the MX7 raw data off the drives from the system, have already processed your trajectory, and simply import so that the panoramic images can be generated in TBC and then kicked out to whichever program you like. So with that, we'll go ahead and make a new project here. Pick the appropriate unit template. And the first thing I'll do is I'll immediately go ahead and save this to my project folder. I'll talk about the data structure here in a moment, but I want to make a new folder here and call it TBC. Give it a unique name. All right. Now we'll point out that my TBC toolbar up here has a whole bunch of additional modules. This is the full mobile mapping subscription that I'm running. For MX7 users who are not also using point cloud, lasers of some kind, whether it's terrestrial scanner mobile mapping, MX50, MX9, you probably don't have most of these other tabs. That's okay. This tutorial is all about what you need to do, what you can do with simply TBC Survey Advanced. So that being said, the first thing I want to do is go into my project settings and actually update the coordinate system. And you can simply go down here and use the change button. A couple ways to do it. I'll use one of my recently used here. Click OK. I'm just going to get that out of the way first so I don't start importing things and having to reproject data later. So let me take a quick pause to highlight the data structure. So everything you see here in this project folder came off of the MX7 data drive, with the exception of that base station folder. So it's always a great idea to use a base station for trajectory processing. Obviously MX7 is generally for GIS applications, not survey grade, but even just a CORS network station, as in this case, or whatever you have access to, will certainly improve that trajectory. So in this case, I just downloaded a nearby station from the NOAA CORS network lookup website, and that comes out in a RINEX format, which I can drag and drop into TBC. But everything else that you see here in this folder, minus the TBC folder I just made, of course, does come straight off the MX7 drives. With the raw camera data, your raw positioning information in here. Now I made this POSPAC folder in during my trajectory processing in POSPAC MMS, and a couple other things. Now the TriDB is the main file we're concerned with when it comes to actually importing this data set into TBC. And the other thing we're concerned about is, again, assuming you've actually processed your trajectory already in POSPAC. So again, I made the TBC folder and the POSPAC folder, and of course the base folder. But in this POSPAC folder, if I drill down under my project name, here's the mission name in POSPAC, and in the process folder, I need to find this SBET file. So this file right here, the smooth best estimate trajectory, that is that post-process trajectory, that improved trajectory information. So in a moment, when I import my TriDB file into TBC, I will point to this folder destination. Go ahead and copy that, actually make it convenient, and off we go. So again, in TBC, a couple different ways. Once you've made your project, updated the coordinate system appropriately, I could simply drag and drop that TriDB file in here in TBC. But to highlight the different import options, I'm going to choose Import here under the Home tab. So when I do so, I'm just going to update that folder directory. To my overall project folder where the TriDB lives. I will just select the TriDB file right here. If you come down and expand the settings with this little arrow, I can now refine the file path for the SPED. In fact, if you look closely, it automatically found it, and that's why going back to the data structure for a moment, it is really helpful to make, this is the raw POS information, make your own POS pack folder. That way when you're in TBC, it should automatically find that appropriate file path. If it doesn't, of course, you just update it right there. And really the only other setting here I need to worry about is this automatically generate cache on import. It does now as of version 5.80 in TBC, default to no. This is really convenient because for a lot of users, you're just going to generate the panorama images, the JPEGs, and immediately upload those to Mapillary, perhaps Esri's oriented imagery catalogs, TMX/Orbit 3DM, or somewhere else. And so if that's your use case and you're not intending to actually visualize the imagery here in TBC, do any kind of extraction or anything else, you want to leave this as no, because that will drastically reduce your processing time. If you do actually want to visualize the images here in TBC, you could switch it to yes here, or later on, once everything is loaded, once you launch a panoramic view, it will then begin that process. So just know that that's an important setting to pay attention to. It all comes down to what your goal is with the imagery, and again, whether you intend to interact with it here in TBC or only in other places. So I'll go ahead and click import. This is a relatively quick process when you leave that automatically generate cache set to no. And then once that's done, I'll pretty much wrap this segment. I'll reload after I've actually let the cubic images stitch together. That's just how it needs to be done here for TBC viewing of the images. This was about a 45-minute mission over a few miles, just for scale context. All right, so now we've got here in our plan view, in this mobile mapping, we see the 3 different runs, which we can highlight there, and the different camera positions. So again, because as a normal MX7 user, you're not doing anything with mobile mapping tab in TBC, and because I didn't actually allow the images to stitch right here, there's really not anything else to deal with. I can visualize each of the 3 runs. I can immediately jump here to the export tab. So I got various options here, kicking out MX7 images. So let's just say I was ready to go straight into Mapillary. I could go ahead and do some blurring if I wanted to. That does add quite a bit of time to the export. Click export. I could go to TMX. I could make sure I wanted to write the GPS information to the XF metadata if I wanted to, and again choose to blur, not an export. So again, that really is all that there is to it for taking raw MX7 data and generating the JPEG panoramic images. Now again, I'll put a pin in this and pick up once I've done it, but if I wanted to actually start visualizing something here in TBC, let's just say I wanted to launch a panoramic view here in the mapping tab. I could, let's say, zoom in right here and launch panoramic view, and it's going to should give me a message about needing to process. Yep. So it says the import panoramic views is not complete. So if I say no, maybe I misclicked there, I won't have to wait at all. I can continue exporting my images. But if I actually like, yep, I really do want to visualize these, interact with the images right here in TBC, I would say yes to that. So I will say yes to that, and we'll pick back up on the other side of that process. Now that TBC has finished processing the panoramic images, or called cubic images, just for use here within Trimble Business Center, I can actually now launch a panoramic view. A couple ways to do that. I just like to simply right-click the run name panoramic view, or even go to a certain station. I'll just do it this way. And then once that launches, we can actually pan around the ladybug imagery. And of course, you can adjust your views accordingly. You can do things like enable automatic trajectory tracking in the plan view here and update my view, that kind of thing. And we can even turn on the background ag as well. So you can see which way we're looking on this street. And of course that updates through this toggle. Plan view updates as you pan around the image. So that's it. Again, this is just the final piece to importing and exporting your MX7 imagery from TBC. As mentioned in the first part of the video, you don't have to actually interact with the images at all. Here in TBC, in this particular example, it ended up taking over 3 hours on a decent processing machine to actually generate these cubic images for use here in TBC. And as mentioned before, if your workflow, you really just want to kick this out into some other program and start using those JPEGs, there's no reason to turn that cache on or ever try to use panoramic view. But if you do so, that's that last step that we showed. And here's the output of that. Of course, from here you can start maybe doing some digitizing, feature extraction using the CAD tab, GIS tab, other things, if that's part of your workflow.